So this past week saw the 4th anniversary of the 25th of January revolutionary uprising that took place in 2011. In the past year, we've seen a new president elected, we've seen a consolidation of power, we've seen economic challenges being recognized and being addressed in a certain type of way. I think it's quite unlikely that they'll be addressed in a way that is sufficient in the very near future, which is not something that's completely unexpected. The issue is whether or not those challenges are going to erupt in terms of reaction before they're addressed sufficiently. And considering that in a few months we'll see the beginning of the summer, we'll see energy cuts take place as usual, perhaps even more aggressively than they have been for the last 2 summers, it stands to reason that there might be some sort of eruption. The question is what sort and how wide-ranging would it be. So the question is whether or not the new presidency, which has been in office for the last 6 to 7 months, is going to be able to establish a more organized set of institutions under a new regime. The Egyptian authority at present is split and is varied across different institutions. They're all pretty much on board with this notion of a war on terror, addressing certain economic issues that are troubling the state at present. The question is whether or not they're all going to become part of a cohesive whole. And that at present is something that's quite unclear, if that's going to be possible in the short term or not. This week is the anniversary of the uprising that took place in 2011. And in retrospect, many are asking, does this anniversary signify the end of the Arab Spring moment? And many have asked, was the revolution a failure, a success, and so on? And I think that the question itself is rather problematic. Revolutions aren't moments in history, they're processes that take place over quite significant periods of time. While it's very clear that the aims of any revolution that took place in Egypt or began in 2011 have yet to be achieved, I think it's rather too early to state that it's failed as a complete moment in history. We won't know that for quite some years to come. It's very clear that something changed in 2011. It's very clear that forces opposed to that change have been far more powerful than others would have expected. But a change took place, and the final effects of that particular moment have yet to be seen. As indeed across history we've seen revolutions take place, and they take a very long time to actually show their effects. Against the backdrop of a region that is experiencing quite a number of changes, a new Saudi king, the Arab-Israeli conflict, Daesh or ISIS in Syria and Iraq, many wonder, can Egypt withstand these sorts of pressures, or will they have effects on Egypt's internal discussions as well and its own geopolitical standing within the region? And I think it's very clear that Egypt does stand in a rather precarious position, particularly with regards to Libya, actually, which is very significant to Egypt's security. I don't think that Egypt will be able to sort of put up huge walls and escape from any turmoil that happens within the region. On the contrary, I think actually there's some forces within the Egyptian state that would prefer for Egypt to take a more forward approach and actually engage with some of these issues quite directly. The question is whether or not they're going to be able to solve those issues or at least diminish the effects of those issues or aggravate them in some way.